Is your thyroid sabotaging your health and fat loss efforts? If you're dealing with stubborn pounds, relentless fatigue, and brain fog that just won't quit, your thyroid might be the hidden culprit. The good news is you have the power to take control of your thyroid health and finally feel like yourself again. Today, I'm giving you the ultimate evidence-based blueprint to nourish your thyroid, balance your hormones, and reclaim that vitality. Whether you're battling hypothyroidism, Hashimoto's, or hyperthyroidism, this episode will give you the tools you need to heal from the inside out and naturally heal and optimize your thyroid, boost your metabolism, and get the body you deserve for your efforts. Welcome to the Wits and Weights podcast. I'm your host, Philip Pape, and this twice-a-week podcast is dedicated to helping you achieve physical self-mastery by getting stronger, optimizing your nutrition, and upgrading your body composition. We'll uncover science-backed strategies for movement, metabolism, muscle, and mindset with a skeptical eye on the fitness industry so you can look and feel your absolute best. Let's dive right in. Wits and Weights community, welcome to another solo episode of the Wits and Weights podcast. In our last episode, 175, The Big is Beautiful Movement, Obesity, and Heart Health with Dr. Tiffany DiPietro, we discussed some of the myths surrounding heart disease, like the idea that it's only a man's disease, or you must have symptoms to have a problem. Tiffany shared her best practices for nutrition and exercise to maintain a healthy heart, and effective ways to prevent cardiovascular issues. And we stepped into the minefield of the Big is Beautiful movement by asking the question, can big also be healthy? Today, for episode 176, heal your thyroid to boost your metabolism, even with Hashimoto's or hyper or hypothyroidism. We'll discover and explore what your thyroid actually does, break down the different types of thyroid dysfunction, and dive into the root causes behind thyroid issues. And of course, I'll give you concrete, evidence-based strategies to support your thyroid through nutrition, lifestyle, and targeted supplementation. With the right approach, you can definitely get your thyroid functioning at its best so you can get back to feeling like yourself again. But before we dive into the details, I want to remind you that this information is for educational purposes only and not medical advice. Always consult with your doctor or medical practitioner if you suspect there is an underlying medical or hormonal issue. Now, most of this episode was delivered as a live training where I took questions from the audience and integrated them into the episode. I decided to give away one of the bonuses that I gave to those who attended to thank you as a podcast listener for following the show. And that bonus is a free Heal Your Thyroid guide that you can download using the link in my show notes. Again, if you want to download your free Heal Your Thyroid guide that goes with this episode, go to the episode resources in my show notes. All right, let's get into today's topic, heal your thyroid to boost your metabolism, even with Hashimoto's or hypothyroidism. All right, we are talking about healing your thyroid naturally because we know how important the thyroid is for your metabolism and many other things. We also know that many people, women especially in peri and post menopause, tend to face more thyroid issues or dysfunctions or things that present themselves as thyroid issues. And I think it's really important to understand true dysfunction from symptoms and things that we could actually do something about. So in today's training, we are going to explore what your thyroid actually does. We're going to break down the different types of thyroid dysfunction, dive into the root causes behind the thyroid issues, and then I'm going to give you some concrete evidence-based strategies to support your thyroid through nutrition, lifestyle, and targeted supplementation. So if you have the right approach, you can definitely get your thyroid functioning at its best and get back to feeling like yourself again. Let's jump into it, starting with what the thyroid is. Okay, the thyroid gland is pretty small, but it's very critical to everything. It is a butterfly-shaped gland in your neck that produces hormones that regulate metabolism, energy levels, body temperature, and some other functions. So when your thyroid is underfunctioning, it can then lead to lots of other frustrating symptoms that we're going to talk about in a bit, but things like fatigue, brain fog, what many of you are concerned about, which is either weight gain or frustrating inability to lose weight, and a lot more symptoms than that. And maybe you're struggling with some of these issues yourself, or you're suspecting that your thyroid could be the culprit. And the reality is that the thyroid disorders are incredibly common, whether they are the root cause or they are caused by the lifestyle choices, especially things like hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's, which is the autoimmune form of hypothyroidism. But so many people go undiagnosed, so many people struggle to manage their symptoms, even with medication. I've worked with many a client who has had one of these conditions, and once we start to fix or change just a few key areas of their behaviors, their lifestyle, oftentimes the issues either get resolved or they're able to significantly reduce any sort of treatment or medications for them. So that's what I want to do today. I want to power you with the information and action steps to optimize your thyroid health, whether it is a diagnosed condition or you just want to give your thyroid some love. So what does the thyroid actually do? Well, it produces two hormones. You probably heard of these, T4 and T3. I'm going to try to pronounce them. It's thyroxine, that's T4, and T3 is triiodothyronine. So try to say that 3 times fast. T4 is the inactive form that has to be converted to T3, which is the active form to do its job. So you've probably heard of T4 to T3, or T4 to T3 conversion. So these hormones, think of them like the master controllers of your metabolism. They regulate how fast or slow your cells use energy. And then that affects all the other things downstream, like your weight, your body temperature, your heart rate, your digestion, your mood, your brain function. That's why it can cause so many different symptoms. So when your thyroid is under functioning, right, we call that a sluggish thyroid. We call that hypothyroidism, the extreme autoimmune form of that being Hashimoto's, which, by the way, I'm not going to get into too much into Hashimoto's in detail, but typically Hashimoto's from a medical standpoint means you have an physically inflamed thyroid, but there can be a spectrum of symptoms and blood work and things that tell you that you have Hashimoto's. So common symptoms of hypothyroidism, if you have a decent amount of these symptoms working together, right, or one or more of these symptoms, you may have an issue with your thyroid, but I don't want anybody to kind of freak out that any of these in and of themselves means you have a sluggish thyroid. But things like fatigue and sluggishness, brain fog, difficulty concentrating, the big one, weight gain or difficulty losing weight. You feel like even when you go into a diet or in a calorie deficit, the weight just stops going down, despite cutting calories. Intolerance to cold, dry skin and hair loss, constipation, muscle aches, weakness, depressed mood, a whole bunch of things. And for those of you watching the video, I actually have a long list here. This is what I use sometimes with clients just to see if symptomatically thyroid might be something to look at, which would then lead to other things like blood and lab work. So those are the symptoms of hypothyroidism. Hyperthyroidism, that's your overactive thyroid, has a shorter list of symptoms, but still important. Anxiety, rapid heartbeat, weight loss, and diarrhea would be some of those. Most of what we're talking today generally is with hypothyroidism. And so when we talk about the dysfunction of the thyroid and what causes it, the most common cause is Hashimoto's. It's an autoimmune condition where the immune system mistakenly attacks the thyroid gland, and then you get some inflammation as well. And over time, this can cause the thyroid to underfunction. Other potential causes are nutrient deficiencies, potentially low iodine, low selenium. We'll get into some of those specifically. Certain medications. Of course, pregnancy and postpartum changes can cause temporary dysfunction in the thyroid. And then if you're getting treatment for hyperthyroidism and it's maybe because of the dosage, it can cause, the opposite reaction to occur. So no matter what's causing it, what we want to focus on here and what I focus on with clients all the time is how can we give our thyroid some love in a natural way so that we kind of take out all of the factors of lifestyle, and then whatever's left may lead you to go down other routes of investigation, working with a medical practitioner or functional medical practitioner or what have you. So the three are, number one, reducing inflammation and immune dysfunction. Number two is providing the raw materials to produce thyroid hormones. And then number three is supporting conversion of T4 to active T3. And none of these are going to be complicated. The idea here is that the lifestyle changes we talk about will support these, and you don't have to worry about necessarily getting super specific on any one of these per se. Let's break down the first one, which is identifying and addressing your personal root causes or triggers of dysfunction, because this is very individualized. And everyone's different. The things that cause potential thyroid dysfunction or underperformance are different. But going down the list, food sensitivities. So if you are sensitive or intolerant to anything really. Gluten, dairy, soy, those tend to be the big culprits, but there are women who have thyroid dysfunction that can eat gluten just fine, right? So don't assume that these are quote unquote inflammatory. It's really going to depend on your individual response. Nutrient deficiencies, the big four are iodine, selenium, zinc, and iron, but there are others on the list, such as vitamin D, that could come into play. Gut issues, and this is mainly with people who they may not have a very diverse diet, they may not have much fiber, they may not have many plants in their diet, things like that. All the same things that lead to poor microbiome diversity in the first place, which everybody should be concerned about anyway, given how important the gut is. But again, I don't want to go down the controversial routes like leaky gut and stuff like that. We're just talking about supporting your digestive system in a healthy way. Chronic stress, of course, is a culprit behind lots of issues when we talk about health and fitness. Environmental toxins, again, I'm not going to get into too much detail on that, but there's plenty of evidence out there that certain exposure to things, both in the food and the environment, can definitely have an impact on your endocrine system and your hormones and your various glands. Certain medications, of course, again, I'm not going to get into details on those, and then pregnancy and postpartum changes. To actually pinpoint root causes is very difficult, right? And so we focus on the activities that support your thyroid. If you want to go that next step and you work with a coach, again, or a doctor or a functional practitioner, those are different ways to get down to the root cause. All right, continuing on here. So now we get to the fun stuff. What can we do about it? That's what I'm here to talk about. What can we do with your nutrition and lifestyle to start, supporting that thyroid? Some of the most powerful dietary changes are going to be removing any food that's just not working for you. And the word inflammatory can get dicey. It can get dicey when we use language. I'm using it in the context of you eat it and you have some sort of negative response in terms of biofeedback or thyroid function or your metabolic rate or something. And from tracking and looking at the before and after that it has some negative effect that you don't like, and it might help you to exclude that food. We're not talking about restrictive dieting. We're talking about individualizing your diet and still having everything else in there that, you enjoy and that supports you. So these could include gluten, dairy, soy, sugar, whatever. My suggestion is either eliminate one that you suspect to be the issue for a few weeks and track and document how you feel and your biofeedback and everything else, and see if that indeed was a culprit. The other slightly more extreme approach is do an elimination diet, right? Cut out a whole list of things, which is very difficult. I will admit it's very difficult. It's not fun. And you do that for, again, like a month or a few weeks, and then you start reintroducing one at a time to see if one thing just causes your symptoms to get worse. And again, we're talking about symptoms, all the symptoms we talked about earlier. If symptoms go away because you remove a food, that's a good sign. Hey, this is Philip, and I hope you're enjoying this episode of Wits and Weights. I started Wits and Weights to help ambitious individuals in their 30s, 40s, and beyond who want to build muscle, lose fat, and finally look like they lift. I've noticed that when people transform their physique, they not only look and feel better, but they also experience incredible changes in their health, confidence, and overall quality of life. If you're listening to this podcast, I assume you want the same thing: to build your ultimate physique and unlock your full potential, whether you're just starting out or looking to take your progress to the next level. That's why I created Wits and Weights Physique University, a semi-private group coaching experience designed to help you achieve your best physique ever. With a personalized, done-for-you nutrition plan, custom-designed courses, new workout programs each month, live coaching calls, and a supportive community, you'll have access to everything you need to succeed. If you're ready to shatter your plateaus and transform your body and life, head over to witsandweights.com/physique or click the link in the show notes to enroll today. Again, that's witsandweights.com/physique. I can't wait to welcome you to the community and help you become the strongest, leanest, and healthiest version of yourself. Now back to the show. The second thing is eating nutrient-dense whole foods, right? We always talk about 80-20, at least 80% of your foods are nutrient-dense foods. But for thyroid specifically, there are certain nutrients we want to just be aware of. And we could take two approaches here. One approach is you just have a very diverse diet full of animal and plant products, or if you're not, if you're not an omnivore, plant products, but it's diverse. And by diverse, I mean not just different types of foods, but oftentimes even multiple types of the same food. For example, multiple types of apples. So you get different pectin compounds in the different skins of the apple, kind of eating like we would have naturally back in the day when you had a lot more diversity in your diet. So if we specifically dial in on nutrients that come up with thyroid, the first one is iodine. That would include things like dairy products and eggs, also fish, especially white fish, cod, tuna, haddock, things like that, and seaweed. So I recently spoke to somebody who mentioned there's a powdered seaweed you can get, but of course there's different forms of seaweed you can purchase in the store. But for convenience, there is a powdered form you can sprinkle on food. So kelp, nori, wakame, things like that. Selenium, we're talking Brazil nuts. I mean, just a couple Brazil nuts a day is probably sufficient. Seafood like shrimp, sardines, salmon, meat, beef, turkey, chicken has selenium, and whole grains as well. Brown rice and oats have selenium. So there are a lot of foods that have selenium. Zinc, oysters is the big one people talk about, but I know a lot of people don't regularly consume oysters, but they are high in zinc. Shellfish like crab and lobster, various types of meat have zinc. Pumpkin seeds are high in zinc. And then legumes like chickpeas, lentils, and beans. You kind of get the theme here. Let's have diversity. Let's eat a lot of different things, especially plants in there. And then iron, you got red meat, of course, poultry and fish have a lot of iron, especially sardines and mackerel, spinach, legumes like lentils and beans. Okay, so I just gave you a whole bunch of ideas for food. And by the way, I have the guide that you're going to get for this. I believe I include all those food sources in there, but if not, I'm going to take a note to beef that up. Pun intended. All right. Number 3, prioritizing your gut health. So I mentioned before having diverse sources of fiber. That's really where I want you to focus. Yeah, bone broth and all these other things are nice, but I think having fermented foods, a variety of fruits and vegetables, different types of the same. For example, not just yellow squash, but also zucchini, not just red delicious apples, but Granny Smith and all of whatever types there are. Go and have fun in the grocery store and find things you've never had before, buy them and throw them in your food. Really have a diverse source, have adequate amount of fiber, and that can go a long way toward helping with your gut health and digestion. All right, protein is a huge one for everyone. I mean, I would have this on every list, basically. If, you're building muscle, you're trying to support your hormones, you're trying to stabilize your blood sugar, you're trying to feel full, whatever the reason, improve your body composition, protein tends to help in all those realms. And we're aiming for about 0.7 to 1 gram per pound of body weight. The 1 gram per pound is on the high end. If you could at least get to that 0.7, you're in pretty good shape most of the time. So that's what I would aim for. And then finally, don't fear carbs, right? Complex carbs are great, but really any carbs, but complex carbs from whole foods like sweet potatoes, fruit, rice, they tend to support your hormones. I mean, there's some evidence that links these foods to T4 to T3 conversion. Again, I don't put too much stock into that because now we're trying to get so biohacky to that level. I think just including all of these things on a regular basis is a practical way to do this. I want to talk about intermittent fasting because I know there's a lot of curiosity about it. There's a lot of controversy. The truth is there's a mixed bag when it comes to intermittent fasting. There are experts who make claims like it reduces inflammation, improves insulin sensitivity, stimulates cellular cleanup, and all of these could benefit the thyroid. But the evidence is mixed on whether you could actually tease out these results from intermittent fasting, and prolonged fasting can be a stressor, right? So we really have to make our choices when it comes to fasting work for us, not necessarily because it's going to help the thyroid, because it could backfire and actually, cause more issues than it helps. Fasting can disrupt things, your HPA axis, your cortisol, all of that, those things, maybe, right? And maybe interfere with the conversion of T4 to T3. So I just would recommend avoiding aggressive fasting protocols if you have a thyroid condition and just eating in a way that works for you. And if you want to experiment with fasting, go right ahead. I'm a big fan of experimentation. Now, the reality of fasting is, well, I already mentioned it's a stressor. It could help with, if you're in a fat loss phase and calories are tight or low, it can help you tighten that feeding window so it's more practical to get in the calories with fewer meals. It could help with your lifestyle if you have a schedule that lines up better that way. Just pay attention to your body's signals, right? Pay attention to fatigue, to cold sensitivity, hair loss, like any of the symptoms of thyroid that come into that either go up or down depending on what actions you're taking. And as always, once you've done these things and you still have symptoms, you could always go down the route of working with a doctor or medical practitioner. Yeah. So my basic thing with intermittent fasting is it depends on if it works for you. Don't buy into the hype or the claims. There's always truth somewhere in the middle. All right. The next thing is lifestyle. Again, you're not going to be surprised, but a lot of the lifestyle factors are the same lifestyle factors that anybody would want to incorporate for a healthy lifestyle. Getting enough sleep, managing your stress, regular exercise, movement, training, high cortisol from chronic stress can wreak havoc across the board, including with T4 to T3 conversion with your thyroid, as it does help downregulate many hormones when you don't get enough sleep or you have too much stress. So aim for that 7 to 9 hours of sleep, focused on high quality. Know that a lack of sleep has been shown to cause additional storage in the belly, right? Visceral fat storage has been shown to worsen body composition outcomes, meaning if you ate the same amount of calories, a group that was sleep deprived might gain more fat and lose some muscle relative to a group that has sufficient sleep. Sleep's super powerful. Stress, reducing stress with practices that work for you, whether it's breathing, meditation, yoga, being in nature, doing stuff you enjoy. And then for movement, of course, a mix of strength training and low intensity cardio like walking tends to be ideal. Many of my clients who have had hormonal issues, they were just doing too much. They were doing too much cardio, chronic cardio, right? It's excessive and it was stressing their body out. So you've got a lot going on in your life, most likely. When you're now trying to squeeze every ounce of time out for some form of exercise, that can be a stressor. So lifting weights at least 3 days a week, and then walking a bunch is a decent mix. If you want to add more cardio in there, just do it strategically. Okay, supplements. Now this is the one I was very hesitant to get too much into on, because there's a lot of snake oil out there. And my opinion when it comes to supplements is you're just trying to fill in the gaps. I mean, other than performance supplements for like lifting, we're going to keep that off the table right now. For thyroid support, we're really just saying supporting your nutrients where you might have gaps that you're not getting through food or what have you. And especially the ones that we know are associated with thyroid health. So selenium, these are things that you could supplement. And again, work with a practitioner, because something like zinc, if you have too much zinc and not enough copper, there can be an imbalance there. There's all sorts of dependencies between different supplements. So I'm not recommending these. I'm just saying do your research, talk to a qualified professional, and really figure out, based on testing and based on you, whether you need any of these, right? Vitamin D, thiamine, B12. Magnesium I recommend to most people anyway, because I think we're generally deficient and it helps with things like sleep and a little bit with stress as well. And then Hashimoto's, there's something called myo-inositol, which is, and I did some research into this, it does seem to reduce some of the antibodies associated with the thyroid condition, the autoimmune condition, and stabilizes the TSH. So again, you have Hashimoto's, I assume you're working with a practitioner on that anyway. So that's it for supplements. Again, I would focus on getting it from food and then test for deficiencies and then potentially look into supplementation. So the bottom line here, I guess it didn't take as long as I thought, is nourishing your thyroid is as important as nourishing any of your other parts of your body when it comes to hormones. But it particularly could affect your weight, your energy, your mood, your brain, all of these things. And I think these are simple changes. And if there are any opportunities here, I would take the time. My suggestion is identify one opportunity on this list, and I'm going to send you the guide and I'm going to send you this replay so you can review it again. Just one opportunity to improve your nutrition or your lifestyle from what I shared today. Second thing is get blood work and other testing, possibly through a functional medical practitioner, potentially a full thyroid panel, TPO and TG antibodies, micronutrient testing, GI map, things like that, whatever you feel like you need to go to that next level. And then, of course, the other option is join our Wits and Weights Physique University. I would say this. It's a semi-private group coaching program where you can get some support and accountability to work on some of these issues. adding a variety. So Camille says adding a variety of fiber. Yeah, it's huge, right? Because we think of fiber as this one thing, but it's actually a very diverse, type of carbohydrate with different types. And then there's fermented, and there's the different, there's lectins and pectins and all these compounds. It's a whole variety out there. I always want to plug MacroFactor for you guys, because if you're not already tracking your food and you want to track not only your macros and calories, but you want to track fiber and micronutrients, they have a way to do that in the app. It's more than a food logger, right? It also tracks your metabolism. So it's a good way to see if your thyroid is responding as well. For example, if you're in a fat loss phase and now your metabolism is a bit more responsive, it doesn't tank as much as what I often see with individuals with thyroid conditions. It tends to adapt faster. You can use that before and after to compare and see if what you're doing is working for you. I'm going to throw a video in the chat. It's a YouTube video you guys can take with you that explains how to download and set it up. All right. I hope you enjoyed that training about how to heal your thyroid naturally. And don't forget to download your free Heal Your Thyroid guide using the link in my show notes, or by going to witsandweights.com/free. That's witsandweights.com/free, or use the link in my show notes to download the detailed companion guide to this episode. No matter where you are on your thyroid journey, remember, you have the power to take control of your health always. Advocate for yourself, educate yourself, and never give up on feeling your best. Okay, in our next episode, 177, How Anatomy Impacts Your Gut, Muscle Mass, Hormones, and Health with Justin Cottle. Justin shares how understanding our digestive system's anatomy can lead to better nutrient absorption and overall health, and also how our bodies physically adapt to training. We explore the impacts of understanding your anatomy on your personal health and fitness. We get into a lot of interesting side areas, things I know you haven't heard before, practical advice to go along with it to optimize your nutrition and training. So as always, please make sure to hit follow right now in your podcast app, or subscribe here to the YouTube channel to get notified when that episode comes out and to support the show. As always, stay strong, and I'll talk to you next time here on the Wits and Weights podcast. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Wits and Weights. If you found value in today's episode and know someone else who's looking to level up their wits or weights, please take a moment to share this episode with them. And make sure to hit the follow button in your podcast platform right now to catch the next episode. Until then, stay strong. Hey, before you go, I want to let you know about a free resource I have. They are free guides on everything from fat loss to eating out to building muscle to managing hunger to figuring out the best macros for you, and more being added all the time. You want to get the most out of these podcasts and your time to look and feel your best, and these free guides will give you a quick and easy way to know what to do. If you want to get your hands on these completely free guides, you can head over to witsandweights.com/free. That's witsandweights.com/free to get your free guides and level up your results today.